Slavery didn't destroy the black family. Do you know that we were still getting married through slavery? Jumping the broom in secret, even under punishment of death. We were married during Reconstruction. We were married during civil rights. When do you begin to see the rise of the single parented black female household? 1970. After they killed Dr. King, the United States government said we must neutralize the black power base. And they determined that the black power base was the black family. It was independent black skilled men and women who financed King, financed Mr. Garvey, financed Mr. Muhammad, financed SNCC and CORE, the Freedom Riders and the sit-in movement. So they said, if we want to crush the black struggle, we got to crush the black family. So guess what they did in 1970? King dies in 68. In 1970, they came into the black communities and de-industrialized our city centers. In 1970, they started shutting down the factories. Remember, up until the 50s and 60s, you didn't need a college degree to get a decent job. Many of us got grandparents who worked in factories their whole life and lived better lives than we're living now with 2 and 3 degrees. They could work in their same neighborhood and everybody worked for the factory. Good retirement, pension, benefits, medical. They started shutting down the factories in 1970. And then they went into the high schools and did what? Started deindustrializing the inner city high schools. Up until 1970, you could graduate from almost any school in New York, certified as a plumber, certified as an electrician, certified as a carpenter, auto body, brick mason, a welder. They took all those programs out. These are the skills that pays the bills, gentlemen. As long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if all you got is college degrees, you might end up in an unemployment line. Why? Because the skills that we learn in college are not necessarily marketable to other black people. I'm a psychologist. Ain't too many black people running around looking for a psychologist to reveal all the skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, you got to talk to a white
Exactly. So they started sending us to college instead of teaching us how to work with our hands. That was the 70s. That was the economic castration of the black male. Now let's go to 1980. The CIA comes in, cocaine import agency. They drop off crack. So now the unemployed black man who has always been a breadwinner, Envy, even in slavery, we were always the breadwinner up until 1970. Now the crack comes. You got a decision. I can sell this crack and try to put some food on the table, or I can smoke it to deal with the fact that I'm no longer economically relevant to the black woman. And let's be clear, the decade of the 70s was the decade of making the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. We're the only man in America who is out-earned and out-educated by our mates. No other woman in America out-earns and out-educates their mates. And this was systematically done to make us irrelevant to our families. Then the 1990s come, Bill Clinton crime bill, 3 strikes and you out. Mandatory minimum wages, the Bill Clinton crime bill. Now all those unemployed black men who got caught smoking crack or selling crack now being sent off to jail. And then they also give us the ADHD so that we could dope the kids up with the same medicine that sent the father to jail. Then the year 2000 come, George Bush hits us with the what? Faith-based initiative. He finds a loophole in federal law that allows you to finance churches. So now the mega churches and the medium-sized churches in the black community, Charlemagne, are being financed by the government. You think it's a coincidence, Envy, that you don't see no major churches involved in the miseducation movement? No major churches involved in the mass incarceration movement? No major churches involved in police genocide? Yeah. No major churches involved in poverty? Where is the black church in 2017 when it comes to black people issues? They're missing in action because they're being paid by the government to stay out of the struggle. And that's why it's called faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new FBI agent.
Wow.
I mean, that was good, a good chronological assessment. There was a lot of stuff left out. I mean, now we're seeing a lot of the byproducts. The stuff we arguing about is byproducts, Fashion Nova and fucking Zeus Network. These are byproducts. These are byproducts of a family being broken, because along with having a family or a family structure, big mama, granddad, mom, dad, etc., cousins you grew up with, along with all of that comes pride, comes spirit, comes things to be proud of, and things that you don't do because you know that you have a family that's proud of you, that you need to make proud of you. And there's certain things that when you have people behind you that support you and love you, there's certain things you're not going to do out here. But if you're not attached to anything, you a bull in a china shop, whatever. I don't have nobody to answer to. I don't have nobody that's gonna look at me like, damn, you know, certain things I do, I think about my pops. I think about my mom. Damn, I can't. There's no way in hell they can find out that this happened or that I'm doing this or and that leads to better decisions to me, in my opinion.
One of the things I was going to say, he laid it out. I remember reading an article that talked about the impact, like the argument about the welfare system had the greatest impact on breaking up Black families and stuff like that. And the shift gets towards Black women for taking welfare. But when you're not looking at the total picture of it, it's easy to say that when you make that point. Because when I was reading, it was saying the other things that contributed to the need for the welfare for women was the deindustrialization that occurred in the communities because these men did not have jobs, could not find jobs. And therefore, now the need for welfare for women to be like, all right, I still have this child I need to take care of. So on the back end, I'm going to go ahead and get this welfare and we'll play like you don't live here. So a lot of women, even at that time when they were on welfare, they didn't, even though the government said the men couldn't be in the house, a lot of times the men were still in the house. I remember growing up seeing that all the time. So it was really the economic aspect that really impacted the breaking up of the nuclear family for Black people. I'm not saying welfare did not have a role in it. Don't get me wrong. That is, but I think the problem now is we need to take individual accountability plus have collective mobility. And I think that is what's lacking. Like we're all walking oxymorons. Like we'll talk about the importance of a family, we need a family, while at the same time creating broken homes by having kids out of wedlock, impregnating women that you're not married to, things like that. Or like men talking about I can't tell the difference between the hoes because they all look alike or whatever, but while at the same time talking about the hoes, you're contributing to making hoes, right? And for women the same thing, like it's about niggas ain't ish, they only want you for your body, they only want you, da da da, but they don't want to marry you, while at the same time being okay with being a side chick and walking around half naked. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these things, you can't say that you stand for something, but then your behavior don't reflect what you stand for. And then we're sitting there blaming each other for saying, well, men don't want to marry, and so I'll rather be the side chick. Or men saying it ain't no good women, while at the same time creating the women that they said that aren't good. It doesn't work like that. So it has to start with the individual. That's why it goes back to what I was saying about your own family. You have to identify what is important to you in your household and be a reflection of that. And that's not what is happening. You can't say, I want a great wife, while at the same time being disrespectful to women. You can't say that you're looking for a husband while the truth is you're just looking for a bank. Like those things don't work. It just doesn't. And then we just continually create the system that we currently have that we call the Black community. And the ones who have the right mindset honestly don't want to be a part of it. So they leave. And then you just leave the same ones that are in that condition with that kind of mindset, perpetuating the same cycle over and over again. And then they go into the school systems because we see it. And then you don't have like programs within a school system that are going to help nurture young men that may not have fathers at home unless they're in a sport. Not everybody's going to play a sport. So you don't have programs that are going to have boys learn how to be men. You don't have programs in the school, mentoring programs. I know in our school we don't. So it's things like that to me impacts the Black community. Is the individual accountability is not there, And then we are expecting people to have a collective mobility mindset when our values aren't even the same.
It's a draining, vicious cycle, unfortunately.